Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we have a great lineup of guests for you on our show today. Ethan, will you please give us the rundown?
Sure, Herb. We have a great show today, including Jane Barr Horstman, President and CEO, Jane Barr Horstman and Associates, Tony Cellucci, Managing Member, the Beacon Group of Companies, Wolfgang Oster, CEO, Viral Abatement Corporation, and Marty Lupinetti, President and CEO, HealthShare Exchange.
Let's get to know our first guest, Jane Barr Horstman, President and CEO of Jane Barr Horstman and Associates. Jane, what is Jane Barr Horstman and Associates? What are you guys doing?
Jane Barr Horstman and Associates is a 33-year-old business. We have 8 employees. We do association management, personal assistant work, virtual admin, and special event.
And where are you from originally?
Northeast Philadelphia.
How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm 4th of 8.
All righty. Drew, give me a hand.
Hey, Jane, when did your organizational skills show up as a youngster?
They did when I first started working. I was 11 years old. I went to a neighborhood store. They sold corn out of a bin. I said, why don't you go fill your station wagon and I'll sell corn every Saturday and Sunday.
And what was your strategy behind that business?
I wanted to make money.
And how did you do that?
Customer service, customer service, customer service.
What do you mean?
Well, someone would come every week. I'd say, oh, I'll give you 2 extras. Somebody else would come. I'd say, let me pull them out from the back. They're the best ones. I'd get 50 cents, $1. I'd get home with $100.
And what did that teach you that you bring to work every day today?
Work ethic.
Ethan?
Jane, tell us a little bit about mom and dad. What did mom and dad do?
My mom was a homemaker. She had 8 kids, so she really couldn't do much else. My dad was CFO of Bond Baking Company, which was a local baking company.
And who are you more like between the two?
My dad. I'm totally like my dad. My work ethic, my business acumen, everything like my dad.
Speaking of one of 8 kids, that must have been kind of a crazy household. Did you guys get a chance to sit down for dinner?
Yes, and it was chaotic. It was absolutely chaotic.
What was your role there sitting at the dinner table?
I was the troublemaker. I was the one who wanted something she wasn't serving. I was the one who spilled her milk. That was me.
What does that tell us about you, Jane?
Kind of that I'm a hooligan, you know? I try to start trouble sometimes.
How's that help you build your business?
Yeah.
Oh, because people know me. I am like right up front. The second you meet me, you know me.
Daly?
Well, let's talk about school. What type of student were you?
I was an A+ student. I was National Honor Society, but I was not so good on the discipline side.
Really? I'm surprised. Tell us about that.
Well, the problem was the nuns didn't like someone I was exactly at 7 what I am today, and the nuns just didn't like that.
So running your business, how do you deal with people that are, they're outspoken and that, cause trouble? How do you deal with that?
I love it. I congratulate them.
Frank?
So, Jane, in the green room, you mentioned that at a young age, you had the ability to give people what they want. How did you do that?
I figured out what they wanted. I wanted to make money. The way to make money was to give them what they wanted.
Isn't that the essence of what you do today? Give people what they want?
It's exactly what I do today.
Pat?
Jane, you mentioned that you were close with your sisters growing up. What kind of hobbies did you guys get involved in?
Oh, we did things together. We played mass. We did songs. My sister would set up little cards telling us when to sing. It was just great. I had a wonderful, wonderful raising.
And what was your role in that compared to your
I was kind of the follower with her. She kind of led.
And how did that, your relationship with your sister, lay the groundwork for how you deal with your clients today?
It taught me that you have to follow sometime, and you always have to listen to what your clients are saying.
Shannon?
Jane, you mentioned to Ethan that you're more like your father. Tell us more about that and why.
My dad worked 70 hours a week easily. He left early in the morning and came home after dark. He had a work ethic you could not imagine, and he taught me that.
And what did you learn from your father that you carry with you into work today?
My work ethic, and also the fact that if you want to get the job done, you have to work hard.
And Jane, it sounds like you're all about family. And in the green room, you mentioned how supportive your husband is. Tell us what family and that support has to do with building your business today.
Oh my God, I couldn't run my business without my husband. My husband only has a high school graduate. He gives me the best insights you can't even imagine. When I have a problem, I go to him and talk about it.
Tell us more about that.
He just has better sense than I do, and he's a great judge of people, which I'm not.
And what does that have to do with building a business?
The people who I'm working with are all about the business, the clients, the employees, everything. It's all about people.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was about all the stuff you do.
No. If you make the people happy, they'll keep coming back and they'll recommend you to their friends.
It sounds like the selling corn lesson way back when.
Exactly. That's where I learned it all.
Mm-hmm. Who's got the next question?
And I want to go back to your Irish twin sister. You told us she became a nun, was a nun for 40 years. What did you learn from her growing up?
Oh, I learned so many things from Mary. I learned to be compassionate. I learned to have a big heart at a very young age.
And what did it mean to see your sister become a nun and teach kids?
I hated her becoming a nun. I hated it.
Why was that?
Because they took her away. Back then, you were stuck in postulancy for a year. You couldn't see your family. I wrote her every single day.
Why did you do that?
Well, I did it because it made me feel better. Here, I find out at her funeral, one of the nuns who she was in postulancy with, my sister used to read my letters out loud to the girls every night so that they would have a laugh.
What did that mean to you when you heard that story?
Oh, it made me feel so good.
And what is the impact of writing your sister every day on your business?
It was follow through, the same thing. I did what I had to do to make the relationship work.
Sounds like you learned a lot from your sister.
I did. She died last April, and she was just a wonderful influence in my life.
Mm-hmm. Who's got the next question?
So who else did you learn from, Jane? You were thinking like a seasoned entrepreneur at a young age. Did you have any other mentors?
At a young age, I didn't, but as I grew, I had many. Ken Balin of Amaramar Realty. Right now, my biggest mentor for the last 20 years is Judy Von Seldenik of Diversified Search.
What did you learn from your mentors?
I've learned the lessons that I practice in my business. Customer service, quality services, always do your best.
Why is that important to you?
Because I want to go to bed at night thinking I did a great job today.
Jane, you've learned so much. What lessons would you tell our young listening audience, especially the young women out there listening who want to get ahead?
Take a chance, work hard, and get the job done, and no excuses.
Mm-hmm. Daly, what else are you thinking?
I just hear the customer service. Is there any challenges you've had with that?
Yes, but you know what? We covered it. When I need help, I call in another member of my team. I've got a great team, and they're all great at pitching in when I need help.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Riley, what else are you thinking?
I guess for the, in your business today, how do you relate what you do with all your employees, with all the brothers and sisters you had growing up?
Well, I think that you have to treat everyone fairly. My parents taught me that. They were very fair. They didn't play favorites. They were fair. And that's exactly how I am as a business owner with my employees.
Do you think growing up in a larger family gave you it gave you a leg up in terms of understanding who people are, in terms of the team and all that other kinds of stuff?
Absolutely. We were 8 very different personalities, and I learned to deal with different personalities and to respect and love those personalities.
To respect it. So I thought business was blood and guts and, it's killing other people and suing them, but I haven't heard that from you at all.
No. Cooperation, mutual admiration, respect. Respect is so important, and I give respect and I get respect.
Yeah, I keep on hearing that. It sounds like everybody we've asked you about, you seem to have a deep respect for, from your husband right on through your sister and your teammates, your brothers and sisters. You try to find the best in people, don't you?
I do, because you know what? Sometimes you have to dig. Sometimes it's a pain, but it's worth it because you find it.
Huh. What's your website address? What's website address of Jane Barr Horstman and Associates?
JaneBarrHorstman.com.
We've been speaking with Jane Barr Horstman, President and CEO of Jane Barr Horstman and Associates here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders, executiveleadersradio.com. We've seen with Jane Barr Horstman, President and CEO of Jane Barr Horstman and Associates, and we will be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away. You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Anthony Cellucci, also known as Tony Cellucci, managing member of the Beacon Group of Companies. Anthony, what is the Beacon Group of Companies? What are you guys doing?
Herb, it's a broad-based financial services firm specializing in 401k advisory, employee benefits, and commercial property and casualty brokerage.
How large or how small is the team?
About 50 employees.
And how'd you get a job with this company?
I co-founded it 20 years ago.
You co-founded it. Where are you from originally?
Overbrook, West Philadelphia.
So it's a suburb of Philadelphia. How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
Middle child.
Okay, middle of three. Okay, Frank, you got him.
So, Anthony, I'd love to know you grew up in Overbrook. That's a classic Philadelphia neighborhood. Describe the feeling of growing up in Overbrook.
It had its great parts, Frank. Bronx Tale type situation. We had Italian, we had Irish, we had Jewish, but it also had a dark side, alcohol, drugs, gangs, very few people going to college out of the neighborhood.
So where did you fit in, and how did you take comfort in the midst of all that?
Could have gone either way. Most of my classmates went the wrong way. Thankfully, my mom took a job at Villanova University, which allowed us to go there tuition free, which is the only way I was going to afford it. Just had to get in and get out, Frank.
What's important to you about growing up in a big environment, a lot of kids like that?
What's important to me about that is the sense of community, but also the sense of the fact that, at the end of the day, you really got to work hard and plow your own path.
How's that influence how you treat clients today?
Very much so, in so much as I kind of had to protect my sister, my younger brother, and many of my smaller friends and classmates. I was a bigger kid. And to this day, Frank, in insurance, I get to protect my clients. I look out and protect my employees. Got very loyal employees. Been with me for decades.
Tony, how young were you when you first started making money?
About 7 years old, Ethan. I had no problem digging up garden snakes in my backyard and put them in a box and selling them to kids who were too afraid to do that themselves.
Garden snakes. Where did you get that idea from, and where did you get the entrepreneurial spirit?
So the idea just came from being in the backyard, seeing a garden snake, picking it up, and nobody else was brave enough to do it, I guess. I don't know. And I thought, hey, I can make money out of this. And that was the only way I was going to have money, is to go earn it myself, I guess, is the answer to the second part.
Yeah. What did that teach you, and what effect did it have on you as you grew up?
We didn't come from a lot of money at all. So it taught me that if I was going to have money and the things that money could buy, that I was going to have to figure it out on my own.
Mm-hmm. Daly?
Let's talk about sports. When you were 8 to 14, what were you doing?
Baseball, golf, football.
Golf. You grew up in a rough neighborhood and you're playing golf?
Yeah, a buddy of mine had a golf club, and we made a makeshift hole, and I wound up being just pretty good at it. So I loved it from the jump, but didn't have too many opportunities to play.
Is that your favorite? Is that your best sport?
To this day, yes.
What do you learn from golf?
Discipline, emotional control, not letting outside influences control you, figuring out, you're really competing against the golf course designer.
Shannon?
You mentioned that you were an altar boy growing up. Tell us more about that. How'd you get started and why?
Had a great experience there, Shannon, unlike maybe many others. The church was connected to my grade school, and we would go to mass 3 times a week just as little kids. And it just had a positive effect on me, a calming effect from the neighborhood around me where the drugs and the alcohol and the gangs, and they would love for you to come join them. But instead, I wound up being an altar boy, and 5-6 days a week, I'd be serving mass, weddings, funerals.
Tell us more about that positive effect you mentioned.
Yeah, sure. It was great. It was good values. To this day, my faith is very important to me, right? Just biblical principles. I'm on the board of Independence Mission Schools, which runs 15 Catholic schools in Philadelphia.
And in the grade, you mentioned that you even considered going to be a priest at a very young age.
I did, yeah. Yeah, 6th grade, I had a little altar set up in my bedroom. I loved it. I was enamored with it. I thought I just liked the beauty of it, the spiritual dynamic of it. But then found out, Shannon, towards 8th grade, that we weren't allowed to have girlfriends or marry in the priesthood. So that put the kibosh on that.
But what was it about the priests that you looked up to and you wanted to be like them?
They just preached the good news. I mean, they preached things of value and positivity. And it was a stark contrast to what was happening outside of the church doors with violence and drugs and, no real ambition.
What does faith have to do with what you're doing today, nowadays?
I like to think I run my business and my life in a way that's parallel to biblical principles, treating others as I would want to be treated, the golden rule, and many other aspects.
Pat?
You mentioned that you protected your brother and sister growing up. Where did you get that sense of responsibility from? Is that from the church or is that from closer to home?
That is from my dad, Pat. My dad was in the Navy, big sailor tattoo. He's a big guy. He's a big sports guy, baseball, football, and suffered fools very, very, very impatiently. So I kind of took that cue from my dad, and anyone ever messed with my friend's family, I kind of stepped in and put an end to that.
What kind of impact did that have? Your dad's raising you in that manner. What kind of impact does that have on your business today?
It's a good question. I protect my clients. I make sure that they're treated according to the contract that they have signed, and everybody abide by that contract. Insurance companies, whoever it is. So I protect them. I protect my employees. I enjoy it. It's just second nature to protect people.
Drew?
Anthony, I wanted to stay on your dad here for a sec. What's the impact of having a dad that's a pretty tough guy, really good athlete, kind of well-respected in the neighborhood? What's the impact of that?
I think good question. I think that the impact to me was a life path that was he shaped who I became in many ways in terms of looking out for people, for protecting people. I get that sense from him.
When you were competing as an athlete, did your father show up for you?
Yeah, all the time. Coached me.
Was that meaningful?
It was meaningful. It was meaningful. Yes. Sports to me wasn't the be end and end all as it is to a lot of people. I enjoyed more. My faith was probably more important to me than sports. Being an entrepreneur, earning money, getting a college degree, and being successful was more important than sports to me.
When you're faced with a tough decision at the office, what do you hear your dad whispering in your ear?
Man up, get her done. Work hard. He was a hard worker, man, out the door by 5 a.m. and I didn't see him again until 6 or 7 p.m. But we always had dinner together.
What about your mom, Anthony? What influence did your mom have on you?
She was a badass Irish woman from South Philadelphia. Grew up in the projects, no money. And she and my dad married. She was 18 and very loving. What a contrast, Frank. Very loving, but suffered no fools either. She was quite the badass in her own right.
What attribute from mom do you take with you today, every day?
Besides my good looks, Frank, I would say that it's determination. Mom went out of her comfort level to take a job at Villanova University. in the posh mainline suburbs where she had never been as a South Philadelphia girl with no money. And it allowed us to go tuition free, my siblings and I.
Daly, what else were you thinking there?
I just hear this continuous thing rising above the fray, the gangs and everything, and you elevate yourself. Where does that come from?
My mom. That's a great question. My mom, that's where it comes from. She wanted better. Dad, God bless him, he would say, hey, Anthony, I can get you into the Carpenters Union, and it's a great job with great benefits. And it is. But Mom had a higher watermark in mind for us kids.
Mm-hmm. Pat, what else are you thinking?
So you mentioned a couple times that, coming from humble beginnings in a rough neighborhood, now today being a successful business owner, how do you think that foundation sets you up to be better at business and take care of your employees?
I think that it sets me up in so much as I'm still that kid from Overbrook, the kid from Philadelphia. And I bring those characteristics of grit and determination, and then also I'm inspired to pay it forward by working closely with inner city kids to this day.
You're all about community, aren't you? It's every step you make is about other people being involved in the community. Am I right about that, Anthony?
You're absolutely right. Absolutely. That involvement and relationships with people, like one of your hosts here, Ethan, is how I came to you guys. That's a 20-year friendship and business relationship.
What's the website address of the Beacon Group of Companies?
TheBeaconGRP.com.
We've been speaking with Anthony Tony Cellucci, managing member of the Beacon Group of Companies here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. Don't go away. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Wolfgang Oster, who is the CEO of Viral Abatement Corporation. Wolfgang, what's Viral Abatement Corporation? What are you guys doing?
Viral Abatement Corporation is a company that has developed and commercializes now an airflow system which removes infectious viruses from their source of origin, which means basically right out of the breathing air.
How large or how small is this team?
45 individuals.
Where are you from originally?
Germany.
And how many brothers and sisters? Where's you in the pecking order?
I have a 3-year-old younger brother.
So you're the oldest of two. Ethan.
Wolfgang, earlier in the green room, you mentioned that you were, as a youngster, you like to think out of the box. Can you share with the audience an example of how you thought out of the box?
Well, I had a very strong desire to, determine a lot of things in my life myself. And I felt that I can only do this when I'm independent, make some money early. So, I was one of very few started mentoring students, classmates of mine to some extent, in physics and math. And I continued this throughout my high school education.
How young were you when you were doing that?
12.
12 years old. Wow. And you're tutoring math and physics. How did that prepare you for your future?
I had two choices basically in my career, either becoming a math or physics professor or to study medicine and become a professor in medicine. I chose the latter one. But what I really like in math and physics is that there is only one solution, sometimes two, but there's a limited number of exact solutions. And, strategizing and finding this solution, really formed my career path to become a person who develops solutions for unmet medical needs.
Frank?
So the area you grew up in Germany, what was it like? What was that community like?
It's a very poor area. It's called Palatine. It's on the west side of Germany, close to the French border. It used to be French, German, back and forth. And it's, as I said, it's very poor. It has been an area where a lot of people came through who were refugees, like the Amish, the Huguenots, the Jewish, before they then left from there to the United States.
So how did that experience impact you?
Well, you had two choices. You either stayed there and, had a limited opportunity to make a career, or you found a way to get out of there and make a career outside.
Dilly?
So you talked about mentoring and influencing people, tutoring students at a very young age. Who influenced you?
Teachers.
Specifically, who? Tell us about one. You were talking about your Latin teacher. Who was that?
The Latin teacher's name was Dr. Bamberger. He was absolutely brutal with us. We had to speak Latin during the Latin class. And what'd you learn from that? What'd you learn from that? Well, Latin is such a fundamental language for all our languages, and it's so systematic that it was just incredibly helpful for me to think through of what I say and how I actually express myself in a very clear and precise way.
Mm-hmm. And come up with that one solution.
Pat?
What was your relationship with your brother growing up?
It was a mixed bag. I was very, very supportive. I showed him a lot of things, and sometimes my parents insisted that I take him along wherever I go, which was not necessarily something which I always wanted to do. So there were some tensions, there were some fights, but altogether, I think I laid out for him opportunities which he then also appreciated. For example, he studied medicine. He also came here to the United States and lives here now.
And did you feel like you had to take care of him growing up?
Yes.
And how does that impact what you do today?
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm building teams. I take care of people. One of the proudest things which I've done in the time I was active as an entrepreneur is I offered my employees career path, and several of them are hugely successful. That makes me proud.
So you learned, as opposed to beating your brother up and separating, you learned about supporting and being one. And if somebody's going to leave you and they're going to start their own business, you want to help them get their own business started. It sounds like.
Yes.
Shannon.
Wolfgang, where do you see your German roots show up today?
Germany is a very creative country. Obviously, huge background in natural sciences, in philosophy, in many other areas, music and so on. I love music. I play piano and so on. I think one of the features which I appreciate the most is that they do this very systematically. And so the creativity and the systematization of that creative idea is something which I greatly benefit from.
How does that help you build your business?
I think when you look at, for example, the number of patents, the number of ideas, this is something where I think I'm blessed with this kind of a background. And, when you look at, what I've done in terms of developing drugs and novel remedies for unmet medical needs, I think this is where I benefit from. Mm-hmm. And here in the United States, it's more about the market, introducing things, novelties into the market and commercialize them successfully. That is something which the Germans are not so good in.
Ethan?
Wolfgang, I get the sense that you have this very eclectic way about you. You mentioned earlier music and other creativity. How else does that show up for you? You like to travel or?
Yeah, one of the things which I did extensively is travel. And I think there are very few countries which I have not visited on this globe. And I greatly appreciate to experience value systems, languages, cultures which are totally different, which we sometimes, ridicule. But when you are there and see how this works for these people and how appreciative they are, it makes you think. I think it's very enriching and, helps you to come to the conclusion that there is more than one country and more than one way how to think about things.
What effect does that have on what you're doing?
It has a huge effect, because, a lot of the things which I do are things which nobody would have thought are possible. Some of the drugs which I developed in new indications or invented for new applications, something which very few people have thought about.
Like what? Give me an example.
For example, the previous company which I founded developed a drug for cancer, brain tumors, which is a drug which is usually taken for psychotic disorders. Dopamine receptor antagonists, and this is something which nobody thought possible. But we looked at this and we tested the drug, and it worked consistently. And then we did a number of very simple studies, but very impressive studies. So when you are deprived of dopamine, you actually have Parkinson's disease.
So your nature is to look at you've got a tremendous curiosity, don't you? Let alone it's coupled with a need to come up with solutions with completion.
Correct. That's what turns me on. Yeah.
What does?
That finding solutions which nobody, had thought about.
How young were you when you were doing that?
Well, it took me a while to actually educate myself in the science, No.
I mean, as a kid, what kind of stuff were you figuring out that other kids couldn't or didn't?
Well, I think my career path, was very unique, for the area I come from. Leaving my hometown, going to, traveling around, experiencing other countries and value systems, and then basically making a decision to leave the academic career and go into the industry. That at the time for a German coming from this area was totally unusual. I was expected to become a regular doctor, which I would have found interesting, but not sufficiently stimulating for me.
So Wolfgang, speaking
what's the website address of this organization known as Viral Abatement Corporation?
It's vacamericas.com, and it's connected to...
Let me have that website one more time.
vacamericas.com.
We've been speaking with Wolfgang Oster, CEO of Viral Abatement Corporation here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Marty Lupinetti, President and CEO of HealthShare Exchange. Marty, what is HealthShare Exchange?
So we aggregate everyone's healthcare data and broker that data to your clinicians so they make better decisions about your healthcare.
Cool. Where are you from originally?
So I am from South Jersey, Jersey Shore, right near Atlantic City.
And how many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
So I am youngest of two.
And 8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you involved with?
So definitely sports, Cub Scouts, Weeblos, Boy Scouts, played an instrument. I played the trumpet for a little bit. So a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Ethan?
How about sports, Marty? What kind of sports did you play?
So I played all sports, but primarily football and tennis.
When you played football, what positions did you play?
So I was tight end and defensive end.
Yeah, what is a tight end and defensive end? What does that tell us about you? What kind of character are you?
So, I think football, there's a lot of discipline and routine and repetition, I think, especially on the offensive side. So, had assignments, blocking assignments, so forth, had to kind of follow through on those things. Defensive, it was a lot about containing and not allowing things to, to kind of get around you kind of thing. So contain was kind of the optimal word there.
Yeah. And Frank.
So now tennis is more of an individual sport. What lessons did you learn competing at an individual sport?
Yeah, that's mano y mano. It's kind of the best player wins sort of thing. So the key learning there is really self-correct all along the way, right? Every day you show up and you don't have quite maybe the same shot you had the day before, so you got to adjust and self-correct. So a lot of focus.
How do you take that to business with you today on a daily basis?
I think for me, you need to self-reflect of every so often and sort of recheck and reset and think about things maybe with a fresh perspective. And, I do think I do that from time to time to really think about where the business needs to go next.
Deli?
Oh, tell us about school. What kind of student?
I was an okay student. I kind of got very interested in, at the time, it was data processing. So that kind of led me into computer science. So I kind of got my first taste of that in high school, and that kind of led me right into college, and I majored in computer science.
What's the connection? What's the connection with this data service you do today?
So I've always been involved in some level of technology, and data is always a big part of that. And, this sort of came out of a number of years of consulting in technology, and then eventually consulting in public sector, and then in healthcare.
Shannon?
Marty, who was somebody outside of your immediate family that you looked up to as a kid?
So probably a few different teachers. We had one teacher that I think it was seventh or eighth grade that was just very unconventional, took us out of the classroom. We would be outside or touring the school, and it was just a very different way of learning.
And what did that What did that teacher do that directly impacted you and still has an influence on you today?
So I think that teacher really made individual connections, right? We were part of a pretty big classroom, but still you felt connected to him one-on-one. So you had sort of that relationship. And I do find that that's an important part of this business, is really developing that trust and that relationship to really enable this business to thrive, and people wanting to trust you with their data.
Pat?
You mentioned in the green room that your dad did a lot of house projects around the house. Is that something that you helped him out with?
I did. I can remember some very basic electrical work that we would do, a sprinkling system that we installed in the house, and a refinished basement that I helped with. He actually built our TV from a Heath kit. You may remember those. And I sort of helped with a few of those circuit boards. So it was very interesting, those kind of projects.
And how did that process, working with your dad and having him teach you how to do those things, how did that impact your ability to build consensus today in your business?
Yeah, I think, again, it's something that I believe just figuring out, approaching a challenge and kind of breaking it into sizable chunks that you can sort of manage and get your head wrapped around and figure out how to solve or approach. So I definitely learned kind of that process of kind of organizing kind of the way to achieve those interim milestones to the end result.
Did you enjoy that relationship with your father? I mean, did you enjoy hanging out with him, or would you prefer to be out playing with your friends?
It was mixed, right? As a kid, you kind of want to go out and do your own thing, but I also recognized there were things that I did need to do around the house.
How about the relationship? Did you enjoy the relationship with your father?
I did. Yeah.
What did you enjoy about the relationship with your father?
I think he was very humorous and just I've mentioned before, just a big personality.
What's that humorous and what's that relationship thing have to do with your success as president and CEO of HealthShare Exchange?
So I, again, think it's back to building relationships, right? And trying to connect with people and, understand more about them and relate to them.
What is HealthShare Exchange trying to do?
So we collect data from all the disparate healthcare organizations across the region and really aggregate that data and then move it around to the point of care. So when you or I go to our next physician encounter, all that data is available for them to make decisions and better care for you.
So how's your personality fit into the success of that organization?
So I think a lot has to do with building trust, right? You have a lot of competing entities around the table. They're a little concerned about their data and their patients that they work with, yet their patients are going elsewhere for care in addition to maybe a prime organization. So it's building trust is going to be a key component to this business.
Is that why you were brought on as the president and CEO?
Yeah, I was actually employee number one. I was a consultant prior to this, and I had some background working with other states in this endeavor and was brought on to kind of help build the original business plan. And I think they saw enough foundational understanding and directionally where this needed to go that I was lucky enough.
But my bet is, even though you had a foundational understanding, something about your personality, building bridges, is really what they needed. Isn't that true?
It is. I needed to develop relationships with each individual board member, the organization they represented, what their issues and challenges were, and how this new organization could solve or help solve some of their challenges with their members or patients.
And
I think that was a big
how'd your father help lay the groundwork for that?
Well, he was also an engineer. He was very innovative. I mentioned, we built the TV and he built our stereo and so forth. So
how about his personality and your relationship with him? Wasn't that pretty close? Didn't that also lay the groundwork?
I think it did. He taught me a lot about how to relate to people and how to build up that rapport. And I think that's played into what I do today.
Build up what rapport? What are you talking about?
Well, I think really understanding, someone at a personal level, understanding, more about their background, what excites them, maybe things they're not so keen about, and having that better appreciation.
So maybe the reason you were hired in this gig as executive director, as president and CEO of HealthShare Exchange, is not only because of the talent you bring in terms of the data, but the personal characteristics you build in terms of really understanding and caring about people. Well, what's the website address for this organization, HealthShare Exchange?
So it's HealthShareExchange, all one word, .org.
We've been speaking with Marty Lupinetti, president and CEO of HealthShare Exchange here on Executive Leaders Radio. Ethan, can you give me a rundown on who we've had on the air today?
Absolutely, Herb. Great show today, including Jane Barr Horstman, president and CEO, Jane Barr Horstman and Associates, Tony Cellucci, managing member, the Beacon Group of Companies, Wolfgang Oster, CEO, Viral Abatement Corporation, and Marty Lupinetti, president and CEO, HealthShare Exchange.
I would like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Daley Tipton, Evolution Energy Partners, Ethan Milrod, GoTo, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning, and Pat Riley, USI Insurance, for giving me a hand structuring the question they hope be providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and do have a nice day. Bye-bye.